Nibble, nibble, strong and able. Who's that nibbling under my table?
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I thought it'd be fun to celebrate Turkey Day by taking a look at the highly requested special, An Arthur Thanksgiving. This special premiered 20 years after the debut of Arthur's Perfect Christmas, and effectively rounds out the Arthur Holiday Special trilogy. Seeing how I've already covered the Christmas and the Halloween specials, which you should definitely check out, it only makes sense that I should cover the third and final hour-long holiday special. Also, please remember to subscribe. If we can hit 50,000 subscribers by New Year's, I will finally review the CG abomination that is Arthur's missing pal. So hit that subscribe button and let's delve right in. This video is brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you. Make sure to subscribe and help get this video to 4,000 likes.
And I say, hey!
The special opens with this stray goat eating grass. Clearly every frame is a poorly rendered painting. Turns out everyone and their brother showed up to Arthur's house for Thanksgiving dinner. Even Mr. Ratburn brought his husband just to rub it in his ex's face. Arthur remembers the last two Thanksgivings when the only guests were Grandpa Dave and Grandma Thora. Wait, if they were the only guests, then who took these very cursed pictures? Arthur says he vaguely remembers the year his Aunt Meanie came to visit, which was the same year his dad pulled a Peggy Hill and nearly splattered the turkey all over the floor. Again, not sure who's taking these pictures, but they've got perfect timing. Arthur is surprised it took so long for Aunt Meanie to visit again, though after the day he just had, I'm sure he's glad she stayed away for as long as she did. Flashbacks ensue. It's Thanksgiving morning and Arthur wakes up at 7:30, which is way too damn early to be getting up on a day when there's no school. Hell, 7:30 is too early for a regular school day. We see Mr. Reed in his element as he's taken full control of the kitchen. He preps the turkey and what looks like 7 different desserts. I guess David Reed has a thing for tarts. Mr. Reed is so laser focused that he didn't even have time to make breakfast.
What's for breakfast?
Leftover spaghetti from last night.
For breakfast? Don't you still have a year's supply of Crunch cereal you need to burn through? Turns out he won't even let his family use the bowls and spoons, which is a weird power play.
I think he's lifted the ban on using the sink, but I don't want to risk it.
Guess he's got to assert his dominance in at least one room of the house. Mrs. Reed says they need to stay out of David's way so he can have full control of the kitchen, which is exactly why they're eating breakfast in the kitchen. DW yells at Pal for trying to steal her breakfast pasta. Arthur tells her to quit whining, even though his mom points out Pal has been getting more grabby. Sounds like something HR should look into. Turns out Pal has been stealing Kate's food and even swiped a sandwich from DW after she inexplicably left it sitting on the floor. What the hell did she think was gonna happen? David comes back to the kitchen with a plate of cheesy bacon Brussels sprouts.
Blech!
You know what? I'm actually with DW on this one. You can't make Brussels sprouts better, you're just making cheese and bacon worse. Pal tries to jump onto the breakfast table when David saves the Brussels sprouts at the last second. Hooray! Arthur continues to make excuses for his misbehaving mutt, while DW claims Pal is out of control, which is like a hurricane calling a tornado a bit much. Turns out David's sister Minnie is flying in from France to join the Reed family for Thanksgiving. DW doesn't even remember having an Aunt Minnie, and who could blame her, considering how in the previous 23 seasons, Minnie's name is never mentioned once.
Are there any other secret relatives you're hiding from me?
Yeah, answer the question, David. Arthur reminds her that Aunt Meanie is the one who sent them the stained glass coloring book and the wooden puzzle for Christmas. Oh, so she's that kind of aunt. Arthur also claims they have an octopus cousin to trigger PTSDW. Mr. Reed continues his Turkey Day tirade by taking all the plates. He insists on locking up Pal so he doesn't bother anyone during dinner, even though Kate's the one holding out her food like an enabler. Pal snags the meatball before Arthur wrestles it out of his mouth. He then tries to give the half-eaten meatball back to baby Kate before his mom scolds him for being a dumbass. Arthur insists he can tire out Pal before dinner so he doesn't have to spend Thanksgiving locked up in his dirty-ass room. Kate starts crying over her missing meatball, and Arthur takes Pal outside before his mom can beat his ass. The two are playing fetch when Pal gets assaulted by Nemo's barrage of acorns. The crafty kitten scurries away before Pal can question how Nemo can throw acorns without thumbs. Arthur heads out for the Thanksgiving parade, but not before reinforcing Pal's bad behavior by letting him lick off his plate. This is why animals shouldn't be in charge of other animals. Wait a minute. Mr. Reed finds Pal licking the plate clean and assumes he ate the whole tray of Brussels sprouts. Mr. Reed unleashes his fury on Pal like the crashing of 1,000 waves. His rage knows no bounds as he orders Arthur to tether Pal in the backyard. Arthur insists he only left Pal alone for a second, and his father claims that was enough time for the lackluster lapdog to eat 3 pounds of Brussels sprouts. And I just gotta say, as someone with their own problematic puppy, you would immediately know if your dog ate 3 pounds of anything. DW begs her dad to send Pal to the pound, while Bud stands idly in the doorway lapping up all the tea. Bud's family is going out of town for Thanksgiving, and his parents sent him to the Reed house to get him out of the way while they pack. Sounds like the Reed parents could learn a thing or two from Bud's family. Bud offers them a loaf of cornbread, and DW warns him to keep it away from Pal, cause I guess everyone f***ing hates Pal today. Arthur ties up Pal in the yard when Aunt Minnie shows up and starts acting like the Grand Fromage, which I believe is French for pretentious bitch. She refuses to hug Arthur, but still gets spaghetti sauce on her hands, which she then wipes on her nephew's head, though her manners aren't nearly as bad as her conversation skills.
You're no longer wearing diapers, I presume?
Yeah. Nah.
Meanwhile, Pal doesn't understand why Arthur is mad at him. Nemo claims Arthur is just a mean boy. Pal defends his master and claims Arthur is the kindest boy in the world, cause what good kid wouldn't overfeed his dog, beat up his sister, and make fun of his friend until she cried? Pal is so angry that he slips out of his collar and threatens to make the passive-aggressive pussy his next meal. Wait a minute. Back inside, Arthur explains to Aunt Minnie how his class made a parade float based on Hickory Dickory Dock. What the hell does that have to do with Thanksgiving? Aunt Minnie assumes he's talking about Hickory Dickory Cromwell, who was the King of England for only 9 months, and again has absolutely nothing to do with Thanksgiving. DW and Bud spy on Aunt Minnie from behind the couch when she calls them out for being a couple of creeps. She tries to introduce herself, only for the knee-high nitwits to run off in terror. David once again laments how Pal ate all the Brussels sprouts, only to find out his wife moved them into a Tupperware container. Oops. Arthur goes to apologize to Pal, only to find his dog is missing, which would be upsetting if this wasn't like the 5th damn time this has happened. You would think they would have chipped him by now. The Reeds go looking for Pal, and David calls Mr. Ratburn to let him know Arthur will be late to the parade, because of course David has Mr. Ratburn's number. Pal chases Nemo all over town until they end up in the Tibble's backyard. The two are nearly captured by the Tibble turkeys, but manage to escape through the iron fence. Turns out Pal's extra meals are catching up with him, and Nemo taunts him for being a chunky boy.
I'm not going to bite you. I want to pet your fur in the wrong direction.
Now that's diabolical. The two run through Mrs. Pendergast's yard and destroy her lawn gnomes, because not all heroes wear capes. Nemo eventually ditches Pal and heads back to Francine's, who I'm now realizing has no idea what her cat is up to half the time. Pal decides to head back home, only to realize he has no idea where he is. He wanders around the parade floats until he runs into an empanada vendor who assumes he's a stray and tries to take him home. She puts down the dog and then goes right back to handling food. Gross. She tries to bribe Pal with an empanada, only to find the pesky puppy has run off. Back at the Reed house, DW shows off her room to Aunt Minnie. She tells her she can play with her toys as long as she doesn't break them.
That's a good rule.
Yeah, if only she knew how to follow it. DW whines how she has to sleep in a cot while Aunt Minnie stays in her room. Minnie does her best to thank DW right before she kicks her out of the room and casually threatens to break all her toys. DW sneaks back into her room to find Aunt Minnie has fallen asleep on one of her troll dolls.
How would you like to be crushed by a big foot?
I'm sure a lot of guys would pay good money for that. She tries to get it back, but ends up falling on her ass and runs away when her aunt wakes up. Meanwhile, Mr. Ratburn's class gets ready for the parade when Muffy shows up and turns herself into the center of attention. Her dad is set to drive the float, and the raggedy rich girl has dubbed herself the queen of the parade. The rest of the kids get into their mice costumes and practice wagging their fake tails, which is a bit unsettling when you remember these kids should already have tails. Just then, Mr. Crosswire arrives in his questionably named car.
My Cherry Bomb Red Drill Master 5.
I wouldn't trust my kids around anything called a cherry bomb drill master. The kids paint their faces to look like mice, which may or may not be a hate crime. Arthur shows up after failing to find Pal, and we see he's been cast as the clock from Hickory Dickory Dock. And like, how is that a real role? This somehow feels more degrading than when Francine played George Washington's Cherry Tree. We see Pal trying to get home by smelling all the houses in the neighborhood. Turns out his nose is so strong he can smell inside people's houses.
Those people have a guinea pig. Those people cook with curry.
Let's hope Walter White doesn't live on the street. Pal would probably start barking that the house smells like cat piss. Just then, Pal comes face to face with a brutish St. Bernard named Petunia, who's about as intimidating as Strawberry Shortcake, probably because she is the voice of Strawberry Shortcake.
Don't try anything. Just keep moving. This is our moment.
The hellish hound tells Pal to get lost before she changes her mind 2 seconds later and begs him to be her friend. Girl, put your tongue back in your mouth. Petunia reveals her owners left out all the Thanksgiving leftovers just for her.
My family gives me all the leftovers because they need room in the fridge.
Geez, and I thought Arthur was bad about overfeeding his dog. Is there no shelter you can give this food to? I mean, seriously, who gives their pet a whole-ass turkey?
It's a turkey for vegetarians. There are no bones inside.
Well, clearly none of the people wanted to eat it. Does that not set off any of your red flags? Alright, dogs can't see red. Pal goes to town on a tray of Squidward tortellini, while Petunia creepily watches him eat like the witch from Hansel and Gretel. Are we sure she's not trying to fatten him up? Pal saunters away after his feast, while Petunia licks up his pesto paw prints like a shameless savage. Pal next wanders past a fire truck and ends up bumping into Cthulhu. It turns out the monster was just a fireman. Pal tries to hide but stumbles back and falls directly into the ad break. The clumsy canine ends up stumbling onto a dog shelter where he befriends a mutt named Nicky. Nicky shares his treat with Pal, even though he's already scarfed down an entire tray of pasta. The fattened furball starts to feel guilty when he learns the shelter dogs only get kibble for Thanksgiving. Pal refuses to stand for this injustice and sets out to make things right.
Don't go anywhere!
Where the hell are they gonna go? Back at the parade float, the kids rehearse their act, and Mr. Ratburn clearly has a knack for throwing shade.
Don't flap your arms, you're not a buzzard.
Damn! Even on a holiday, the library is open. Arthur is too distracted by his missing dog, and Mr. Ratburn offers to help him find Pal. He leaves the rest of the kids unsupervised, who gleefully pig out on parade candy. Ratburn takes Arthur to his husband's chocolate shop, where Patrick whips up a missing pet poster for Pal.
Patrick is a wizard on this machine.
Meh, I could do better. Arthur describes Pal's identifying features for the flyer, which is rather pointless since the dog's photo is already front and center. Seriously, who is this description for? People who only read the bottom half of flyers? Mr. Ratburn returns to the float with the rest of the costumes, and is shocked to find his mouse hats have been replaced with moose hats. Hilarious. He has the brain take over as the clock, because clearly the crowd won't get it's a clock unless there's a child inside it. Arthur runs into the empanada vendor from earlier, who points him in the direction of Pal. Pal runs back to Petunia, who's having her third food coma of the day.
You know, I just had a meatloaf sandwich.
Wait, your owners have meatloaf but couldn't be bothered to make a real turkey? He tells her about the dogs at the shelter and how they have nothing for Thanksgiving. The two load up the cart to take to the shelter, when Petunia accidentally gets the tofu turkey stuck on her head. And I'm sure that's hilarious for all the kids who remember when even Steven stole this gag from the Friends episode that ripped off Mr. Bean's Christmas special. Instead of helping her get unstuck, Pal has Petunia sit her bare ass on top of the food and then pushes the cart down the hill. Pal apparently has a death wish as he then jumps into the cart and tries to steer it blindly.
Quick! Lean to the left!
101 Dalmatians did it first. Back at the Reed house, David leaves DW and Bud alone with his soul-sucking sister, but asks if they can have a snack, and Minnie corrects his grammar in a way I did not see coming.
May we have a snack?
May we have a snack?
No.
Oh, you suck. DW and Bud are rightfully pissed and give her aunt the fitting nickname of Aunt Meanie. The two conspire to steal a box of crackers and try to lock Aunt Meanie out of the house. Instead of just taking the whole box, the two leave a trail of cracker crumbs and are somehow surprised when they get caught.
Nibble, nibble, strong and able. Who's that nibbling under my table?
Okay, first off, who the fuck talks like that? Second, that's your brother's table, so don't act like this is your damn house. Aunt Minnie goes full Inspector Javert and sentences the two to hard labor for stealing a handful of crackers. She makes them set the table and nitpicks every move they make. Just then, Bud's family comes to pick him up and he eagerly abandons DW with the rest of the chores. He accidentally calls Minnie Aunt Meanie directly to her face, and based on her reaction, you would think he just called her the C word. Back at the float, Muffy is live streaming the parade and nearly breaks the camera with her cursed smile. She tries to get a better shot of the car and ends up trapped on the moving goat float. She starts to climb down when her dad tells her to stay put.
It's not safe to climb down while the float is moving.
What are you talking about? It's only going like 2 miles an hour. Just admit you want to be rid of her as badly as the rest of us. Muffy whines that she's supposed to be the star of the parade, while Binky happily takes her spot in the back of the convertible. Arthur spreads his flyers around town and finds out Pow was last seen at the dog shelter, where they find out the owners have left the dogs alone on Thanksgiving. Someone needs to report these assholes to animal welfare now. The Reeds keep searching and just miss Pal as he speeds down the hill with Petunia. The two share their cornucopia with the shelter dogs and even rig up a catapult to launch the food into the pen.
Is there anything better than eating a huge meal in 1 minute?
Eating it in 30 seconds?
I have never related to a dog so much in my entire life. Pal realizes Arthur was just nearby and runs off, leaving Petunia no way to get home. He chases down the Reeds only to find their evil doppelgangers who escaped from the sewer. He then has another run-in with the fireman and nearly destroys the inside of his fire truck. Back at the parade, Muffy is still butthurt that she's been upstaged by a giant turkey balloon. She's in the middle of another live stream when this billy goat tries to eat her vanity costume. The Lord truly works in mysterious ways. Back at the Reed house, DW is folding napkins when she learns Aunt Meanie doesn't have a family of her own. What a surprise. Aunt Meanie says she's used to being alone, and DW gets a grim vision of her own future. Aunt Meanie reveals she's moving back to Elwood City since she's apparently too snooty for the French. DW invites her to move in, and we see her aunt isn't such a meanie after all.
Your hands are sticky in a way that concerns me, but you're very sweet.
Guess you should have made her wash her hands before you made her do all those arbitrary chores. Just then, the parade passes by, and we see the kids have completely abandoned their float's theme. DW nearly runs into the street to get some candy, only to find the kids have already eaten it all. Sucks to suck. Muffy is filming the turkey's giant ass when the goat chews through the rope and sets the vengeful balloon loose on the town. The parade stops in front of the Tower of Tibble Terror, and Arthur's friends ditch the float to help find Pal. The kids split up to pass out flyers while Muffy tracks the turkey balloon to the soccer stadium. Muffy calls the fire department to get the turkey untangled, and Arthur spots Pal in the fire truck. He chases down Pal, and the two happily reunite, until Muffy yells at them for messing up her live stream.
This is all very touching, but you're in the shot.
Mr. Crosswire tells his daughter she's a hero for saving the balloon, and Muffy jumps at the chance to feed her ego. Arthur thanks everyone for helping him find Pal and invites them over for Thanksgiving dinner without even bothering to ask his parents first. The Reeds decide to set up the dinner table in the backyard, and DW gripes when Minnie tells her she needs to fold more napkins.
Why am I the only one doing work around here?
Don't give me that face, you're no better. Thanksgiving dinner is underway, and DW takes over as narrator to explain how Aunt Meanie ended up adopting Nikki from the shelter, so she'll have someone to keep her company. Only we never see Nikki again after this special, because he probably got sick of living with an emotionless egghead and ran away for his own sanity. Let's review. Everyone in the Reed house treated Pal like absolute crap. The Reed parents yelled at him for stealing food, even though it was the Reed children giving him the food. Pal was falsely accused of eating one of the side dishes and banished to the yard where he ended up escaping. It took the entire damn town to track down this one dog, though considering how many times he's run away, at this point the Reeds don't deserve to have a dog. Speaking of dogs, Muffy Crosswire tried to usurp the Thanksgiving parade by making herself the star and then got pissy when she got stuck on the wrong parade float. Meanwhile, DW took her fair share of digs at Pal and didn't do a damn thing to help when he ran away. She then spied on her aunt and gave her a mean nickname when she wouldn't let her do whatever she wanted. Though we all know who the real MVP of this special is. Aunt Meanie refused to show any affection to her family and was incredibly dismissive toward her niece. She refused to let DW have a snack and gave her a bullshit punishment when she retaliated. And even when she started to lighten up, she chose to pour all her affection into some random dog. So, F you Arthur for overfeeding your dog and losing him again. F you Mr. Reed for blaming the dog for eating all your food. F you Nemo for taunting Pal into running away. F you Mr. Ratburn for letting your parade float run off the rails. F you Petunia's owners for wasting all your leftovers on your dog. F you dog shelter owners for abandoning your dogs on Thanksgiving. F you Muffy for once again trying to make yourself the center of attention. F you Aunt Meanie for being a jerk to DW and a passive-aggressive prick to the rest of your family. And while she wasn't the most annoying character in this episode, it wouldn't be an FUDW holiday special if I didn't say FUDW.
And I say,
Hey, I have a Patreon. Sign up at patreon.com/mattneff to get your name in the thank you credits, along with early access to every FUDW and the chance to vote for future episodes. If there's a movie or show you'd like me to talk about, top-tier patrons can commission a review for my channel. Check out the link in the description to become an FUDW superfan.
and I say, hey, what a wonderful kind of day. If you can learn to work and play and get along with each other.